From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNeil on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Wednesday, May 1st. It was an interesting day in Lansing yesterday as the state legislature met. The governor's executive emergency powers expired, and a new round of emergency power declarations were issued by Governor Whitmer, take effect beginning today for 28 days based on two separate laws. To talk more about not only the developments of yesterday, but about the governor's actions, we are joined by first-term Republican State Senator Roger Victory. He represents Ottawa County in the State Senate. He's on the other end of our Zoom connection. Roger, good morning. Thank you for joining us on short notice today on WHTC's Morning News.
Good morning, Gary. It has been a busy morning, but the sun is out, and it's always a pleasure to join the show. Usually we're a little later in the day, but when we have issues like this, anytime it can be of service and inform the good folks of Ottawa County. Appreciate using the venue to have this dialogue this morning, Gary.
Talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in the State Senate, especially with your chamber, but also the legislature with the House as well. It seemed as if the prevalent theory was that the legislature was not going to rubber stamp any more emergency powers for Governor Whitmer. They felt they got burned earlier in April, and the legislature did some actions to try to be a voice or have some say in this matter. And apparently right now, the trenches are being dug on both sides of the issue.
Well, yeah, Gary, let me, this week we were working diligently between the House and the Senate, both chambers, to work with the governor. I know we caucused over 11 to 18 hours, putting a format forward that, would it be a 1 week or 2 week avenue to work with the governor on the emergency declaration. I had my own opinion of that component. But as the Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey and with Lee Chatfield, Speaker, went in good faith to negotiate. That blew all apart when something that it's to demonstrate good faith negotiations occurred was the governor leaked confidential emails that were going up back about the negotiations. So once that occurred, it became evident that negotiations were not on the table. So the Senate did not extend the emergency declaration, and we believe the governor no longer had the power to issue executive orders. Unfortunately, the governor has chosen to ignore the legislator and refuse to terminate stay at home. And if the governor, if he refuses to work with the legislative body, we'll proceed with the courts.
How much, answer this real quickly. Yeah. Under the emergency powers the governor has, she cannot just tell the legislature, it's an emergency. I'm dismissing the legislature right now. I'm running things until this emergency is over. She cannot do that according to the state constitution. Is that right?
Well, she's citing the 1945 law. So she's basing that on the 1945 law and also quoting some of the 1976 law. And thus we as a legislator, since we did not extend the emergency declaration, will be proceeding to the courts.
It's a shame really that this has to come to this, because one of the messages we've been getting, or at least it is implied, is that we're all in this together and we all have to work together on this. And then we have a situation that we have right now between the legislative and the executive branches of government.
Yeah, again, typically, Gary, I do not get political on this component, but I believe as a business owner, a farmer, it's, you need to get things done. I'm there to serve the folks of Ottawa County, and there's times we have to take those tough decisions, and I have took a number of tough decisions as we proceed forward. But I find it very alarming that while we're struggling here, our good business community, I've worked with a constituent that was being denied chemotherapy, actually did a floor speech on the Senate. We were able to resolve that, but it took over 5 days. In the meantime, our governor is on ABC News trying to defend Joe Biden as a candidate and some of the situations that's he's facing right now. So she appears to have time to defend Joe Biden and some of his issues that he is being accused of a few years ago. But yet, is she putting that time toward our businesses here, our people, our constituents who are facing denial of healthcare services? I find that alarming.
We're talking with State Senator Roger Victory, a Zoom connection on the WHTC Morning News. The images coming from Lansing legislatively is one thing, but the protests, the situations outside the chambers is another thing. It's not putting the state in a very good light. Some are saying, well, some of those protesters, why don't they just try to get essential jobs? But, it's not that simple of a thing. And yet, we're dealing with people's frustrations. And I mentioned this with Brad Slaw. I'll mention it with you as well. It's a decision about dealing with lives and with livelihoods. Is there a compromise? I would hope that there is. Right now, apparently, there isn't.
Well, we were working. We worked 18 hours in caucus and with we developed a number of different roadmaps that we were reached out to the administration on. And there again, I go back to with this negotiations and deliberative thought, it was felt by the administration to leak that out to the press. And how do you continue to go forward? So now we do have to go forward. And, I was kind of taken, I did appreciate seeing some constituents of mine yesterday in Lansing. And yet, they were on bicycles, social distancing, riding around the Capitol, outside the fray. And I thought, that's some good folks from Ottawa County. Went to Lansing, let their voices be heard, social distancing, wearing face masks, and doing it the right way.
I hate to make this sound like a political thing, Roger, but I do need to bring this up in this regard. Is this just a continuation of the tensions between the executive branch and the legislative branches of government in Michigan that have been in place, frankly, for 17 months, since January 1st, 2019, when Governor Whitmer was sworn into office?
Yeah, there's been some tension, but also I see some work being done. I see some glimmers of light, a possibility of moving forward, such issues of our lakeshore erosion. It's COVID-19 is a serious issue. It is, we're experiencing loss of life, but other issues are going forward, such as high lake levels. And so there are areas and departments in this administration we have been able to continue to work with, communicate on. And so I will continue to focus on those areas where we continue to have that dialogue and can move the needle forward and make sure we keep in mind of all 10 million residents of the state of Michigan, because we realize governance needs to continue to go forward. And I will continue to do what I was elected to do, is represent the 30th district and making sure that our health and well-being is being represented at the state capitol.
That's one thing you mentioned about high water levels. That is a big concern right now. We have seen images in Holland, in Saugatuck, in South Haven. High water has really caused an issue, and we're hearing right now all the money being diverted right now into COVID-19, which is justifiable in itself, Roger. But yet, try telling people who live or work in some of these communities that are having these issues. Right now, the money's not there, and sorry.
And that's where we have tough work ahead of us. I will continue to do that work, and I'm looking for a opening conversation or having dialogue with the administration as we deal with this issue. And again, there are avenues, there are certain roads that are open for that, But as you can tell, I've been fairly frustrated with what was occurring this past week.
One final thing, and I want to sort of end it on a sort of a lighter note, Roger, and we appreciate you joining us this morning. Saw something about the fact that there's some food truck fair over at the Hudsonville Fairgrounds going on this weekend. Do you know anything about it? Obviously, being a Hudsonville man, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, apparently at the Hudsonville Fair, as it's going to be a bright, sunny weekend, and according to Homeland, based on Homeland Security, epidemiologists have indicated COVID-19 is very much weakened when you're outside in the sunshine. And so there appears to be some food trucks at the fairgrounds to get have an opportunity using all social distancing and those components similar to takeout restaurants. But as our carnival season and even tulip time, that is not going to be occurring because we understand the size of the crowds and that. But there is still a method that we can continue to work safely and make sure we're not spreading COVID-19, but still, have that little bit of a joy of life.
Yeah, that's one thing we need: joy of life. Good way of ending the discussion this morning with State Senator Roger Victory of Hudsonville. We appreciate him joining us on short notice on the Zoom connection to talk a little bit about what happened yesterday in Lansing, and look forward to chatting with you again, if not before our Talk of the Town Jet next month, maybe even sooner than that. Hopefully we see some progress and some resolution of some of the differences between state lawmakers and the executive branch of government.
I'm hoping to have a robust dialogue with the administration. So very good.
Thank you very much, State Senator Roger Victory on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.